Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of my water cooling build log. Now as you can see back there, I've started getting some of the water cooling bits and pieces in my main rig. But what I wanted to cover off at the start of this video is the rig I'll be using in the meantime while this one back here is out of action. Now I also did do something a little bit cringeworthy to the case of this to get that radiator to fit, so stick around to see that. So after a lot of playing around, I've got this system up and running with Windows 10, which I haven't actually used before. So if we power it on from the back here, we'll watch it boot up and we'll see how it goes. Now powering this little system on the side here is the Intel Core i5-3570K CPU, which is on a Gigabyte GA-Z77N Wi-Fi motherboard, which is very tiny, I believe micro ATX, but it does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in, which will make it awesome and very portable. We've got Corsair Vengeance 8GB 1600MHz RAM. The case is a BitPhoenix Prodigy, which is an awesome case. I love it a lot. The power supply is a Silverstone SST ST50FP, and for storage we've got a SanDisk Extreme 120GB SSD and a Western Digital Green 2TB hard disk, which is currently unplugged, but I'll connect that up soon. And it's also got an ASUS CD drive or DVD drive that doesn't want to eject. It seems like it has failed, but I do want to tear this down, give it a bit of a clean, tidy up the cabling and take out one of the hard drive bays so I can fit a graphics card. But onto that, guys. This will give you guys a good overview of how this case all works as well. So it's got this back plate for the power supply. So let's take this out. Got this awesome ratchet screwdriver which makes these kinds of things very easy. Oops, we've lost the screw, here we are. So this should simply slide out the back here now. So that's good, so still plenty of cables. There's of course extra connectors or cables there. We can take these hard drive bays out, I think, for now. I do plan on removing this whole cage here. We can actually slide that entire cage out there. And we can see these heaps of extra cables, but I do believe when my friend built the system, he kind of got a little bit lazy and left them all in there. So that shouldn't be a problem for me. Now I might take this top piece off. It does have this removable fan filter on the top, and we can fit two 120 fans in the top of the case, I believe. Now I'm not planning on taking the motherboard out if I don't have to, but I do want to tidy up all of that cabling. As we can see, it's a bit of a mess, especially considering it does have a fully modular power supply in here. Now I'm not going to worry too much about making this pretty with extra or custom sleeving or anything, but I do want to tidy it up a little bit, and I do want to tidy those up if we can see them there for the front panel. Okay, so maybe we will take this off now. We swing that around to the back of the case. We can see all of that extra cabling we don't necessarily need. Now this machine is all up and running and ready to go. I've tidied up all the cables in there, I've stripped it all apart and had a good cleanup of the inside. To the right is an ASUS DirectCu GTX 650, which I'm planning to put in the system temporarily. It's the only other graphics card that I have at the moment. I am using the stock Intel CPU cooler on the CPU here. For now that will be staying, but depending on what I plan for this computer in future, I may change that to some kind of larger air cooler, since there's plenty of room for it in this case. All the components in the system are Hackintosh compatible, including that 650, so I may go down that path with the system. It is in the case that looks very similar to the old Mac Pro towers, so that might be quite a cool project to do in future, but if I do, I'll definitely make a video for you guys. One last thing I wanted to cover in this part of the video is I actually also installed a fan controller in the front here. Because I got this all second hand. I don't have the blanking plate for this. It did have an optical drive in it, which didn't work. It always showed it was accessing, the drive would never eject, and was also part of the reason I couldn't get Windows installed. So I took that out and put this in, and also because there is only one fan header on the motherboard. Well, two. There's one for the CPU fan and one for one case fan. So I put this in, and I've also added two fans into the top of the case, although they're probably not the best fans. They may be getting changed out. But what I'll do is I'll put the graphics card in and I'll fire this up and show you the fan controller running. So here it is, all connected up with the graphics card in, and I think it looks quite nice. It probably didn't matter too much about managing those cables so intensely, just because the graphics card covers most of it, but either way it will be nice for the airflow of the system so air can flow freely through. And if we look at the front here, we can see that fan controller. Now I saved this to peel off with you guys, so we can peel that off there, and we can see that front panel of the system looking quite nice. So at the moment the only fan that's going is the rear exhaust, and this one is the front intake, and we can see as I adjust this dial it tells me how many RPMs the fan is doing. So then these two here are the top intake fans. Now I am planning to put the rear intake onto this, but I haven't got around to that just yet. Now in the case we can see I've managed to get that massive radiator to fit in the front there with the fans drawing in from the front of the case. Now the reason the fans are on the front is because I had a lot of trouble getting that radiator to fit in there, and the screws holding it are actually on an ever so slight angle, sort of like that, instead of perfectly flat. So that should hopefully not vibrate too much or cause any strange noises or anything from vibration, but we'll see how we go once we get it all set up. Now up here we can see we've got the EK Supremacy water block for the CPU installed, and I've also got the pump mounted to the bottom of the case. The bottom of the case had some grills for the fan, or a grill for a fan there, so I've used that to my advantage and put the bolts through that. And I've got all the fittings put on so far, and we've also got the reservoir here, which was mounted on a 120mm fan bracket on the front of that radiator. Now I am quite happy with the fitment of everything so far. I am a little bit concerned with the GPU fitting here with how far to the left this sticks. I may need to get a different mount or adjust that mount slightly to accommodate for the GPU. But once I've got the GPU block installed, we'll see how that all goes. Now I did want to show you guys what I had to do to actually get this radiator to fit. So as we can see here on the front of the case, this is not flat or flush by any means. Now there is a lip on this front shroud bit here, so I had to pull this steel out and kink this in the middle so I could bend this upwards to get that radiator to fit. I do know it's probably not the best solution for all of this, but it was kind of the only way I could go about it without cutting it. I didn't really want to have to cut anything on this case, and since it's bent, I can always bend it back if I'm careful. But I know a few of you guys out there won't like that, but it's probably the best option here other than going out and buying a bigger case or a more water cooling friendly case. Now the front input or I/O panel that had the power button and everything like that on it, I actually unscrewed from the case to get all those cables out of the way while I was doing this build. Other than that, guys, I'm really happy with how the build has gone so far. That hard drive cage was really easy to take out, just with a couple of screws in the front, the underside and back on the motherboard tray. And basically all I've got to do left is install the GPU block and do a final test fit and get all the hoses ready to go in place. Now for now the coolant will be staying clear. I do need to buy some distilled water, and I am waiting on some fittings to arrive for the GPU block, but all of that will be coming in the next part of the video. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you do stick around to catch the last part, or hopefully last part, third part of this build. But anyway guys, thanks for watching.